Right, good afternoon, everyone. 2 o'clock. Welcome to the Shareholders Committee for the Dorset Centre of Excellence. Apologies.
That's my fault. Yeah, sorry.
Gary isn't here. I know Gary's unwell, so I'm going to accept his apologies for absence. And Laura is at home because she's got the dreaded lurgy of one form or another. And probably better that she stays there under those current circumstances. But welcome, Laura, but I know you're not well.
Thank you. Yep. Sorry.
It's okay. Right, minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of October. Can I sign those as a true record? Agreed. Those of you in the room, agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. Declarations of interest. I'll take silence as there aren't any. Public participation, I'm not aware there's any, Kate.
No, Chairman, there's been no request to participate in today's meeting.
Thank you, Chris. And questions from councillors?
Thank you, Chair. Again, there have been no requests.
Thank you very much. The forward plan, just for clarity, Chris and I had a chat, did we not, at the back end of last week, because we recognised the fact that we'd got the wrong forward plan on here. We've got the right one on it now. So I assume you've all had a chance to have a look at it. It all looks as pretty sensible to me. So we're happy to accept to receive forward plan between the three of us. Yes, good stuff. Right, we go on to agenda item 7, appointment of non-executive directors. Corporate Director for Commissioning.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. You will see within the report a recommendation for the appointment of 3 non-executive directors. We spoke at the last meeting about the need for some additional capacity, particularly around commercial understanding and knowledge to be able to strengthen the board, and following some really strong candidates and a rigorous recruitment process, we are recommending to the board the appointment of 3 non-executive directors. Hilary Morris, the first recommendation, currently working for Barking and Dagenham Council, strong experience in the development of reports and supporting of boards, particularly trading companies supported by councils or set up by councils. So I think she will bring particular experience that the board can make good use of. Second recommendation is for Diane Grinnell. Diane is now retired, but former principal of Bournemouth and Poole College. Real wealth of experience in the development of education, but also in audit and risk committee management moving forward. And again, I think will bring real strength to the board. And the final recommendation is Anil Patel. Anil is a former barrister. Real entrepreneurial background, will bring a lot of strength to the board around commercial activity, but also has lots of strong experience of working around children and young people. So recommendation for the appointment of those.
Andrew.
Thank you. Yes, I very much wanted to echo that. We found ourselves in the really privileged position of having a really strong bank of candidates putting themselves forward and us to have to whittle that process down. And it was quite a robust interviewing process that they went through in order for us to come up with the recommendations before the committee today. Could I please note my thanks to everybody who applied and showed interest and the sincerity of their interest. We were after, as Claire has indicated, some very specific requirements, particularly around the finance and the commercial role. And the 3 candidates put forward were all able to demonstrate that commitment. And I hope that one of the things that we did give great consideration to is how they would support and bolster the role of the Board of Directors and achieve what we want to see, which of course is the school community grow and thrive. And we're confident in the appointments being put forward that that will be the case. I do invite any other comments from others that were present or would wish to offer a perspective on it. But I think we can take these recommendations as a very, very good step forward for 2023.
Thank you, Aaron. Peter.
Thank you, Chair. With the proviso that this is an arm's length organisation, it would be helpful, I think, if they could introduce themselves to members at some future event, like a full council or something like that. It really doesn't need to be any form of interrogation, but face, name. And I must admit, I'm slightly saying this because I think the same should be done for our other arm's length organisations like Care Dorset. So if we can just perhaps put in on an activity that we do get them to come along and just briefly introduce themselves to a future member seminar, or preferably, in my view, a full council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Peter. Any other comments? Teresa, you look as though you're back.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely, Councillor Wolf. That's, I think, an excellent idea, and I'll speak to the chair of the board later around having a board representation at full council. I think that would be really timely now. We're almost complete.
Thank you very much. Well, the recommendation is to agree the appointment of 3 non-executive directors, which we've heard about. You happy to propose? Yep. Opposed? Peter is happy to second. All agreed. That's dealt with. While Peter mentions people introducing themselves, I should have mentioned Ian Comfort's here today, a chairman, and also we've got Andy Holder with us. Welcome, Andy. Right, we go on to agenda item 8 now, which is an update from the chairman of board, Ian.
Thank you very much. And actually, if you look at the first item on my report, I think you've just helped very much here by appointing the 3 directors you have to add the capacity that we need on the board. We have been struggling on the finance side with the lack of a finance manager as well, and these new appointments will be very, very helpful indeed. I take it you've read the report, but Andy's here today as well. We've just appointed Andy, who started just the end of last week, as the new managing director for the company, and Darren Hart will be starting in January as a new head teacher for the school, which brings us up to capacity with executive staff, which again is very helpful of taking the organisation forward. Otherwise, Joe, I'd just answer any questions to my report. I think it just says where we are at the present time.
Anything to what Ian said before I open it up?
Yeah, just to say I'm incredibly excited to be involved. I've really enjoyed my initial days at the school and with the centre, helping to evaluate what the priorities are and working with the team to get people aligned for the improvement journey we're on. Yeah, thank you.
Andrew.
Thank you. I know one of the things that you've touched on in your report, and I know from our previous conversations has been something that we've been passionate about delivering, which was always part of our wider case for the purchase of the site, is the community engagement parts. And I welcome the fact that you have met with the town clerk of Shaftesbury. That's something that sounds very positive. Are we any closer to understanding when we may see the community having access into some of the facilities on the site?
Thank you. It was a very helpful meet actually with the town clerk, and there's been a subsequent follow-up to that with a visit to the site about how we can work together on effectively some shared resourcing to get it moving. We have got some lights to change on the outside sports area this time of year, unfortunately not working very well. So we're waiting for those to be fixed, and we've got to just finalise a terms of use for the hire. But otherwise, we're in a position to have community use of what I would call the dry sports area, not the wet sports. The people from Shaftesbury Town Clerk's Office and their chair of their advisory committee on swimming are working together to see how we can get some use of the swimming pool early in the new year. So we would look to see that, I think that the dry facilities will start probably now in January, and that we should be able to follow up with the swimming pool fairly soon after that if we can get the arrangement.
Thank you, Ian. That's very encouraging to hear the progress that's been made. Comments? Anyone? Andrew, yes.
Apologies if I seem to hog the questioning today as a part of scrutiny, but it's something I'm very, as you can understand, determined to see that is aired as much as possible in a public forum such as this committee. Could you give us some sort of indication? I know that Dame Susan has been involved in helping steer things around the curriculum, an important part of that. But I think actually in terms of public understanding of how a curriculum in a special educational needs school is developed and how that is implemented and delivered is something that I think we'd like to, as a committee, hear a little bit more about, because it's not necessarily delivered in the same way you would see it in perhaps in a mainstream school.
Andy's probably a better position to answer that than I am even, because he answers to that committee.
Yeah, so within the context of my very short period of time with the organisation, I'm really happy to give a summary of the curriculum developments that are there so far. I mean, my observations and assessment of my initial time in the school is that there's an awful lot going very, very well with the curriculum. It is engaging the young people, and lots of the core elements that are required under the independent school standards, which are what we are held to account over by the regulator, are in place. There are children engaging in really high quality literacy interventions and numeracy interventions, and students are engaged in their learning programmes for most of the time. I've highlighted in my first few days that possibly where more work could be done is where young people, for various reasons with association to their education healthcare plans, require more variety to their educational diet in order for them to continue to feel engaged for the whole week. So it's a little bit more variety and making sure that the provision meets the needs as outlined in their individual plans. So that's the next layer of priority, which was discussed with Dame Susan in a committee meeting last week.
So if I can just come back on that, because obviously another stated objective is to build the role of the school, pupils on roll there, both in terms of part-time, but obviously building up to full-time timetables. If we were to sort of forecast ahead, what sort of additional types of subjects and structure would we see in a curriculum that isn't currently there, that we need to perhaps see in order to evolve that pupil roll numbers? Is there anything that you can perhaps point to?
Yeah, so I would answer that by saying potentially an expansion of what's already there. So much of what is required exists, but is in its infancy. So there's a great deal of developmental work going on at the moment around provision for forest school, for the arts and for music, for the creative arts, practical subjects, kinesthetic subjects, and also our students being able to safely use the PE and sports facilities that we've just discussed. So all of those things have started, but it's about developing them so that they're fully embedded within the school day.
If I could come back on particularly arts and culture, because that's something that the council and our predecessor authority had long links with, for example, both through music schools, but also things like the Bournemouth Orchestra, Symphony Orchestra. Do you see a role for those sorts of organisations in supporting the work at Coombe House and delivering the curriculum?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that all schools should live within their communities and function within their communities. So absolutely, I think my priority as an incoming leader at the school is to make sure that the firm foundations are in place and that the basics are working really well all of the time. And once that's in place, we would certainly look to build on partnerships with members of the community and groups who could assist us in being as good as we can be.
I wonder if I just come back on the music side, because we have had an approach, or I've been approached about the wonderful music facilities that were in existence when it was an independent school, and whether there can be use by local groups for either small music groups or larger music groups. I mean, I've put that really under our wider community use of the whole facility, but there is an interest clearly in the community about how we might, without jeopardising the safeguarding of the children in the school, have some facilities whereby there could be some music activities for the wider community using the facilities that are there.
Thank you very much. Right, Peter.
Sorry, thank you for that. It's really good to hear the positive news that you've got. I'm coming from a perspective where a lot of members are unaware of the good work that you're doing. I have to say that some members have got the wrong end of the stick because they've not been shown the stick. So what I would think would be useful is a short, and I think it does need to be short for a variety of reasons, a short progress report identifying the key milestones and things that deliverables that we've achieved that I could send around, you could send around, but I would include it in my monthly report for my parishes, and I think it would be a useful narrative because it would, dare I say, it would correct some of the misapprehensions that we've got, and it would actually put a milestone in. But I think I would say that if we do start to do that, and I hope you do, I think you will need to produce a short progress report for members. And not something that's part of the sort of audit and governance, but more to do with just keeping members informed so that they are aware of what's going on. And if they've got a question, they can ask it. So if that's possible, a paragraph, no more than a page, please. Thank you.
Andrew.
Thank you. And I'm certainly picking up this around a piece of work of comms between Dorset as the shareholders, Dorset Council as shareholder, and the school's independence to operate. But I would have thought, and I'm very grateful for the school for hosting 2 members' visits over the summer when members were invited, all members were invited to go and see the facilities and the excellent work that's been carried out and making the adaptations required. And that's really good to see. But it might be helpful, just conscious of budgets, time, and dare I say it, even covering a bit of our mileage, if perhaps that could be done by some form of video work through our comms team, perhaps, and as part of a webinar presentation to members included in, dare I say, a wider piece around SEND. I think that might be a really helpful place for us to occupy, if that's agreeable to the board, of course.
As I can see, that's agreeable. Claire and I were both nodding each other here. I don't think that's a problem at all.
I think there's violent agreement in the chamber on that point. I think it's a good point, well made. So the recommendation is to note the report. Thank you very much for that, Ian. Right, we now go into exempt business. So Andrew, would you like to propose exempt and perhaps Peter second it? Yeah. Exclusion of the public. Oh, it's me, sorry.
Yeah, Chair, if I could move a motion to exclude press and public for the purposes of dealing with exempt items.
Thank you, Chair. I completely agree that this is an appropriate exempt item, and I am happy to second.
Thank you very much, Peter. So we just give it a moment until I get nodded. It's happened, does it? Okay. Okay. All right.